to the Metal Command Podcast.
Greetings and welcome back to another edition of the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you. As always, I'm super excited to be here with everybody today. And if you'd like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, give the video a like, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell to be notified anytime I do post any kind of content. And if you follow this show on any other form of social media, by all means, give the show a like and a follow there. Today's episode is an interview with former Fates Warning drummer Mark Zonder, who also plays in Warlord, and of course this really great band called A through Z, who is also putting out their sophomore release, their second album. And I also have Redemption guitar player Nick Van Dyk, who also plays guitar on this upcoming A through Z album, which also features a lot of great musicians such as Simone Mularoni. Jimmy Waldo plays keyboards, and of course you do have Ray Alder, Fates Warning vocalist. Ray, of course, has done some solo stuff. Did play in Redemption with Nick Van Dyk for a period of time. He's also the singer on this, and this is an incredible album. Every musician on this record is phenomenal, and the songs are really well written. So, with that said, here is the interview with myself, Mark Zonder, and Nick Van Dyk of A through Z. Check it out. Welcome back to the Metal Command Podcast, everybody. Tony here with you. I'm joined yet again by Mark Zonder and Nick Van Dyk. Of course, both of them playing on the new A to Z album, A to Z 2, which comes out very soon. And great to have you guys back. And I got to be honest with you, I love the record. You know, I kind of gave a reaction on it on YouTube a little bit, but I haven't gone through like an in-depth review. But a really great record, guys, and it's nice to have you here.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Always like coming on.
Always good to be with you, Tony.
Okay, so let's talk about this album, man. When does it come out? And there's a lot of cool stuff going on. As far, the album cover is really cool. I definitely think the record is heavier. I like the songs better. I love Simone's lead playing on it. I think everything about the record, I think it's superior to the first one, to be honest. And now looking back after recording it, how do you guys feel about this album? What are your impressions on it now compared maybe to the first one?
All you, Mark.
I think it's great. It's a complete natural progression. I'm extremely happy for that because no one wants album number 2 to sound like album number 1. As much as maybe it was good and great and whatever, it just doesn't fly. You have to, kind of not necessarily reinvent, but you just have to take it another step further. And with the member changes, it really afforded that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was basically a flawless process. It was easy. You're dealing with top flight professionals. Everything was moving quickly. There was no problems, and it just kind of went. It was very, very easy. I had a great time. I had the ability to, go back after Ray put his vocals on and maybe change a little, hit this and change a little that. And
right.
Hey, how about we hit accents here? Because now that Ray's doing this. And we really had a chance to really, take it to the next level. And I think it's amazing myself.
Now, Nick, what was it like for you to play on another record with Ray again? Because obviously he was with you in Redemption for quite a while.
Yeah, first of all, obviously fantastic and a treat to make music with him again, and also with Mark, who I've been a fan of since I could draw breath, basically. It was a different process because with Redemption I wrote all the melodies and the lyrics, and Ray would come over and we would sort of grind it out. And this, I think, both because Mark wanted to let all the musicians sort of breathe, and because I didn't want this to be sound like Redemption songs. Ray went off and did his own thing, which I think has fantastic results. So fun to work with Ray again. Fun also to work with him in a sort of different milieu, different style of approaching the music, and I think the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this record, when I was listening to it, it sounds, I don't know if this is the accurate description, but it's like AOR on steroids a little bit. I get some Journey vibes from it, but I still get vibes from bands that you guys have played in as well. And the overall feel of this record, it sounds a lot more refined, compared to the first one. I mean, the first one was great, but obviously we bring some new blood into it. And speaking of that blood, and I'll ask both of you guys this: what was it like? Simone coming in and playing the leads on this record. I thought the leads are incredible. And what were your impressions on that, both of you guys, on a lot of that lead guitar playing going on in this record?
Well, that basically came about because when we started, it was just Nick and I, putting stuff together, and then Philip would play, Jimmy would play, and Nick was the one who brought up the idea. Simone obviously mixed the first record, so he was mixing the second one.
Yeah,
he's even at that point, before he played a note on the guitar, he was an integral part of the band, because obviously the mix is everything.
Sure.
It was Nick's idea because Nick had played with him in Redemption and thought he was the greatest guitar player he ever saw. Mm-hmm. And I knew just from working with the mix that he was like the greatest guy to work with. I mean, it's going to be a no-brainer as far as the whole personality thing. And we just kind of got songs together and said, "Here you go, man, do your thing." And the same with Philip and everybody else. Just play all over the place, play what you hear, what you like, and then we'll kind of figure it out when it comes down to it. And it's interesting because both between Philip and Simone, there were times I said, "Dude, we need more." Philip's big joke is like, "Dude, I want to hear high notes. I want to hear riffs. I want you to play, just not sit in the back." I go, "Step out. It's cool."
Right.
The big philosophy too is as long as you have the big chorus, you can kind of do whatever else you want in different parts of the song. It's right. As long as that hook is there, we're good. And Simone too. He'd come up with this line during the lead, and I'd say, "Hey, how about on the outro when Ray's doing the repeat? You just play that line." Very, very Journey, very Neil Schon style. I'm sure a million other guys have done it too, but and that just took it to a whole nother level. It was just great to work with guys that when you had an idea and you threw it out there, they took it, but then they took it and took it up a level or two because they're the guitar player, I'm not, that kind of thing. And it was just fabulous, man. It was every time I'd get something back, I'd be sitting here with my jaw on the floor.
Yeah, just to add one funny story that I've told before years ago, the first time we worked with Simone was on the Art of Loss record, which was the last one we did with Ray in Redemption.
Right.
And Ray was going through his Engine, I Don't Like Guitar Solos period, and we had lost Bernie, who was a integral part of the band, but had suffered this horrible aneurysm. So we had Simone fill on a couple of songs, and I remember bringing one of the songs, Slouching Towards Bethlehem, for Ray to listen to. And even with his I Don't Want Guitar Solos hat on, we were listening to this, and he literally just started laughing. That's how stupidly good Simone is. And it's not just flash and technique and ridiculous, levels of physical skill. It's taste, and it's understanding the hook and the melody, and it's the phrasing in his fingers that does, I think, is... you play as technically as anybody, like a Michael Romeo, but you've got that Neil Schon sort of fundamental melodic touch to it, and I think it fits this music perfectly.
I think the other thing too, it's both Simone and Ray, and it's very integral to the Journey quote on steroids formula, is that they play in the pocket. Ray, there's a lot of singers out there in prog bands, and they sing kind of all over the place, and they're in their own little world, and it's kind of cute and whatever works for them. But Ray, even in Fate's Warning prog band, I always remember him singing in the pocket. He was singing with the drums. He was singing in a very pop rock type thing. And Simone's guitar playing, when you sit down and listen to it, he's playing to the drums a lot of the time. There's stuff going on. I go, damn, you're playing to that riff when you're playing that lead and stuff like that. So, but that just makes a very cohesive, original sound. And it's just, you deal with pros. That's kind of what you get. That's what you're hoping to get anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the other differences too about this record, and I was listening to it yesterday again, kind of the old school, like Hammond keyboard sound on it. That sounds the keyboards sound a lot different than the last record did. And Jimmy Waldo obviously playing the keys, Jimmy Waldo from Alcatraz playing that. I thought that added a pretty cool element to the album, to be honest.
Well, I think the keyboards on the first album were very proggy. Genesis, Yes. Viv was a huge Yes fan. Kind of thin, light. It worked. It was fine. but it didn't add any power and it didn't add any quote aggressiveness. I actually think Jimmy and the keyboards are kind of the unsung hero of this album that won't get the attention like a lead guitar player or a lead singer will get.
Right.
And you hit it right on the head. There's one thing to have a guitar sound that's distorted, and that's cool. But when you mix it up the way Deep Purple and Rainbow did, when the guitar and the key are together, there's just a certain sound that a lot of people don't have anymore. And those kind of parts, really give this album a lot more edge without being like over the top distorted guitar and getting kind of stupid with it. It adds a great flavor to it that really helps the direction.
Yeah, I would agree. That was actually something I started picking up on. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It does have a little more of an aggressiveness. Like I said, when I talk about the album being a little bit heavier than the last album, that was part of what contributed to that, at least in my opinion. And I think that these new players, these
power outage
changes. Yeah.
Tony, you there? There we go. You're back.
I'm here. But I think that it really contributes to, I think these new members, I like the record a lot better. I think it seems more cohesive than the first one. It's just the way that the songs come off, the playing, it's just a completely different vibe from the first one. And I thought the first one, as you remember my review, I said it was like the perfect record. So, that's kind of where I'm at with this one.
Nick?
Awesome. I mean, that's fantastic, obviously. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think part of what you're hearing is you're talking about guys that, not all of them, but 90% of them know each other, have known each other. There's the utmost respect going on. And just a certain, I think, and it's not going to be in any liner notes and it's not going to be in the speakers, but there's a certain cohesiveness and everybody buying in, kind of like a sports team where everybody buys into the same thing and everybody's pushing in the same direction. That wasn't on the first record. And I think that's part of what you're hearing as well. I think part of what you're hearing too is just the songwriting and Nick's different ideas on the guitar that took it in a little bit of a more aggressive direction too. It's not like it was the same guitar and all of a sudden Jimmy plays and whoa, there we go, we're heavy. It has a lot to do with Nick too.
I will tell you, this is also the first record I've ever done where I went back and re-recorded my guitars after the drums were done, because there's stuff that Mark had mentioned earlier that Ray will sort of perform to the drums, and Simone did the same thing. Some of the riffs are directly reflective of what Mark did on the drums and tightening them up. And frankly, it was kind of exciting. It's hard to get really thrilled about redoing stuff you've already done. But you could tell the payoff was there, and it was like very energizing to do that. So yeah, everybody's sort of rowing together and doing their best to make the song as best as they could.
Now, the first record seemed to be pretty well received, to be honest. And, have you generated like any interest to maybe go out and play some shows with this thing?
No, absolutely. It's just, it's obviously not the 80s. It's obviously, we all don't live in the same band house and with a band van that we can go play gigs or stuff like that. So, there's people working on it. It's tough. At the same time, we all think it's very important and we all love to do it. One really quick story is when we're doing these videos, obviously I'm the only guy that's actually like really playing. Everybody else is playing, but they're not plugged in. They're not hearing an amp or anything. They're just hearing the playback track. My drums are stuffed with towels or whatever to make it a little bit more mellow, but I have to be in every shot. So I'm playing it like, we're at the Oakland Coliseum. And I got to tell you, man, there was moments where it like hit me, like the magic of like what this will be like live. I'm jamming and playing on 10. I got it in my in-ears, playing to the click. I'm looking out. I see Nick. I see Jimmy, I see Ray doing this thing in like full concert thing. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God. I felt the magic. It wasn't like one of those, oh, wow, this could be interesting. And, it probably goes back to also, certain things are meant to be, and maybe it just wasn't meant to be that the first lineup went out and played. We could have went out and played and could have been horrible. A guitar player standing in the corner with the guitar around his neck and the keyboard player cowering away and whatever. It could have been a disaster and the band could have been over right there. So everything was kind of meant to be. Yeah. And it's in a great position right now. But yeah, the whole live thing, oh my God, in that warehouse. I had a great time. I didn't mind playing all 15 times. Okay, let's play.
The other benefit you had is about 46 degrees in that warehouse. So You were at least keeping yourself warm.
That's true. Everybody else was huddled around a fire.
It was a little chilly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the album cover. And I think the album cover I like 50 times better than the first one, to be honest. I think it looks really cool. And, maybe give us some insights on the concept behind that.
Well, I've always loved Hugh. I always thought it was really important to really deliver a package. If I'm going to sell you a $50 steak, I can't give you a $15 hamburger. I got to give you the thing. I don't want to do the old, hey, go to the website and see my daughter's album cover for the band. I mean, I know a lot of bands do it, and I understand money's tight, but again, in the very beginning when I decided to do this, it was going to like go for it or don't. Mm-hmm. And the first one was like, hey, Hugh, this is the name of the band, and he came up with it. There was nothing more to it than that. This one, though, my friend Mark Cubbage and I were discussing it, and we were throwing the old words back and forth, and kind of came up with the alligator and the zipper, and then kind of gave that to Hugh. And after tweaking this, tweaking that, and changing some things around, it was funny because the first one he sent back was basically the album, but it was like, Hugh, the zipper's not going to work like that. It was just functionally wrong. Like those little things that you pick up on. I'm thinking, great, we'll go with this. And the only thing people will talk about is the goofy album cover. But it was just classic Hugh, putting the touches on it, the little sub stuff that he has going on. I think more importantly, it represents the style of the music. It's more aggressive. It has a little bit more teeth, excuse the expression, to it.
Yeah.
Beware, what is it? Bring on the bite or whatever. But if you swap those album covers on the albums, it wouldn't fit. It just wouldn't make sense. So
yeah.
It just worked out great, but I promise there won't be any animals and teeth probably on the next one. I know it just wound up with the teeth. I don't know why, but no, I appreciate the comments, but yeah, I think also too, I always thought it was important to have an album cover when you're stacked in there with 6 or 7 other people, that one jumps out. And I've had a lot of comments from people or other people that aren't necessarily into music and don't even know it's an album cover, but see the art.
Yeah.
Kind of takes them back a little bit. It's definitely draws your eye to it. And I thought that was a very important part.
Sure. So I have a couple songs that I would say are my favorite tracks on this, and you guys can maybe touch on these. The last song in the album, Walk Away, I think is probably one of my favorite songs on the album. And, I know Ray, I believe, wrote the lyrics and stuff, but maybe talk a little bit about writing that specific track.
That's an interesting one because Jimmy had written a chord change that he thought could be in the verse. And I'm like, no, that's the chorus. And I took that and sort of tweaked it a little bit and added to it and sent it to Mark. And he's like, oh, yeah, there's the hook. So that was a collaboration, maybe an accidental one between Jimmy and me, but super happy with how it turned out. And Mark wanted it, you don't want to have every single thing be 140 beats per minute. So it's nice to sort of change it up. And I remember Mark and I talking about where we should sequence on the record. And I think Mark was right, put it at the end. When Redemption does a power ballad, we try and hide it in the middle of the fast stuff. I think leaving it at the end sort of has more of a, and especially it helps because it's got such a great hook and Ray sounds fantastic on it. It's just a nice way to close the record out.
Yeah, that was one of those ones that actually started when I was screwing around with the whole electronic part in the beginning, just writing a groove with all the electronic stuff, and I sent it to Jimmy, and then he put that on that, and we were kind of off and running. And hopefully we can come back to this on the next album, and you'll look at me and say, Mark, you were right on this. But for some reason, I think that song is the silent lucidity for this band. I think it's the one that, okay, you got the intro, you kind of got the Genesis, whatever vibe going on with the little percussion. Ray sounds amazing. It's a total power ballad. And then you've got the kind of distorted, freaky little drum fill, which is a little different than most things. And then boom, you're into this kind of halftime, open air, heavy, strong chorus, and it appeals to men and women. It's not like one of those songs where you go, what the hell is he talking about? Now I walk away. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Like they say, Journey on steroids. But I don't know. I think if that one gets the right attention, it can really do some damage. I mean, up-tempo songs are great, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But when you flash back to the 80s and 90s, it was always the power ballad that put the band on the map.
Right.
So I don't know. It's one of my favorites as well. I think the lead again. I can honestly say that I've listened to this at least 100 times over the last year or two or whatever it's been.
Mm-hmm.
I usually go to the gym and listen to it daily. I really can't. I don't ever like tense up at any parts. You know what I mean? It just sounds amazing top to bottom, and I'm listening to it. I'm not just like bopping around. I'm like zoning in on everything while I'm doing it. It's just amazing. I mean, all the guys were just fantastic.
Yeah, and I get the tensing up part. You listen to a part, man. I don't know if to what you like. One day you like it, one day you don't like it. I've been there, but as I said previously in an episode of the podcast, I don't really think like you have these singles that are out, but I think you could put any of these songs as a single. To be honest with you, very few times can I say that about a band. Most of the time bands put out the wrong singles these days, but really there isn't any song. You could have put any of these songs out as a single to, really promote the record. I think they're all good enough to where you could do that. The other song I really like a lot is Learning to Fly. The second track on the album. That's one that I absolutely, in fact, when I first listened to the record, that was the first song that really like jumped out at me a lot. They all did eventually, but that one, and again, when I listen to albums, what it tends to happen is I'll listen to it and then I get to like this song I really like, and then I go and listen to that song like 10 more times before I get to the rest of the record. And that track specifically falls into that category.
Cool. I think the fact that you're saying the 10 singles, on the record is the strength of this album, the strength of this band. It's not like, well, these 4 are great. This is kind of cool. And then what were you thinking on those 2? It's kind of, it was, again, I can't stress enough when you deal with pros and that are all going in the same direction and they all get it. It just happens to work out. It's, and there's a magic there. I mean, if you had a bass player that just, sat on the E train, let's say, and it was a great guy and could play well, but it wouldn't be the same. It's just sometimes you put those ingredients together and you get lucky and how it works. And everybody's taken the role and they know what their role is. And no one needs to go outside of it for ego's sake or whatever. And it's magical. I mean, and I've heard it from a lot of people when they hear this record, they go, it sounds like a band that's been together 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That doesn't happen all the time.
No, I can agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Nothing Is Over, the first single. What was it about that track that you wanted to pick that as the first song to put out there?
I love that. Just speaking personally, that was the first riff that I wrote for this. I love that riff. Mm-hmm. I love it in particular because Mark added this rhythmic echo back to the guitar part, and I think that just sort of sealed for me that us working together could really be super, super cool. As for picking it, I think it is first of all, a huge compliment to say that any one of the songs could have been picked for the single. And that was certainly Mark's stated desire at the beginning. Every one of these should be friendly and accessible with a big hook, and it can be as aggressive as we want to be as long as it's song first. And sort of that is where we landed. I think we had our thoughts on 4 or 5 that were particularly strong, and we sent it to the label, and the label came back with the 3 that we're launching with. But I'm happy for people to hear all of them. Yeah.
The truth of the matter though was it wasn't easy because, like you said, I mean, you could definitely, without a doubt, go with Fire Away. We went with I Am Numb for the second, but that could have been the first. Yeah. I mean, it just kind of goes down the list. But I do think it's a really cool thing, and this was Nick's call. Usually when bands are doing singles, everything's kind of like up tempo and like, energy, and that's cool. I mean, your first one absolutely, I think, should be like that. You can't really open with Now I Walk Away or anything like that, and you usually don't power ballad as a single anyways. But Nick's idea for the third one, for The Remedy, which is not a, booga-tugga, chicka, up tempo kind of song, but it shows such a great side of the band. Massive chorus. But just the greatest cool original guitar part that Nick has going on. I'm not going to say it's funk, but it's not your traditional stuff, and it really shows the songwriting variance as compared to like every song kind of sounds the same, but we changed the key and this one's at halftime. Okay. It really shows, but his call to go with the third one, with the Remedy is really awesome. I thought, at first I was going, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And the more and more I listened to it, I thought, oh yeah, he knows what he's talking about on this one.
I mean, it's all subjective and maybe a lucky guess. I just love that song. I think the hook is fantastic. Ray sounds amazing. I love the melody. It's just it's a great tune.
If you ever talked about $1 million hook, there it is.
Yeah.
Now that one's right. That's $1 million hook. But the thing that I really actually dig about that song though is there's a funkiness to it. There's a I don't know what. It's not the Chili Peppers. It's not that. It's just there's a certain something. I think it's in that picking pattern that you play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it adds it. And then at the same time, we're all not like heavy metal slamming it down. We're kind of playing a little funky behind it too.
Yep.
But,
right.
Yeah, that's a great song. That really is a great song.
Absolutely. And, I'm going to bring this up too. That album cover, the way the album cover is done, I think like merchandising the band, you brought up an interesting point that if you have 10 albums, you want the album cover to stand out and pop out in front of them. And I think that this album cover being as good as it is, I mean, when you look at the merchandise for the band, because let's talk about that a little bit. You have some cool stuff that you're selling, like bass drum heads and the metal prints and stuff like that. I mean, that album cover makes for a good t-shirt. When you look at the vinyl variants that are out there, there's so many like marbled vinyl colors that would blend with that, right? Yeah. Like when I was looking at all three of them, I went and pre-ordered the album on Metal Blade's site, and I have the blue one. But any of those colors, that green one probably is the best match, but I would say that any of those colors looks perfect for this record. So what's merchandising been like for you? I mean, has it been with this album cover and the way everything's packaged? I mean, have you been able to move more merchandise as a result?
Well, without going out and playing, it's really tough to do the merchandising game.
Right. Right. I get it.
To be honest with you, there are companies out there that will kind of do it for you on the piece by piece basis. That's a complete waste of time. Done that before. It's just a complete waste of time. Yeah. So basically, when all the guys got together, we just wanted to do a couple promo pieces. I wasn't sure how many they were going to work and how many they were going to sell. So there's only like 25 of the metal plaques. And then I only did like 15 of the smaller bass drum heads that everybody signed that we're going to release after the album's out. But to be honest with you, we got into a little bit of a problem and trouble because the artwork is so deep and so, what's the word? Not explicit, but so detailed. No one wanted to put that on a t-shirt because it was going to take 22 different colors and it was going to cost a fortune. Yeah. We did try it with your standard 4-color thing, and it looked like it'd been through the wash 12 times. Brand new. It's just like, okay, this ain't going to happen. That's why Metal Blade used the logo and the vinyl and CD yellow label on their t-shirt that they're doing. But you go out and play live, it'll be a whole different thing. All the guys will be there, kind of thing, and we'll figure out the merchandise down the road. But
yeah,
no, it lends itself to itself. I mean, hey, Iron Maiden has Eddie. Maybe we'll have a big alligator running around somewhere. Yeah, have the zebra and the alligator face off.
Yeah, exactly. Next time you can have an aardvark and a zombie.
Yeah, we're done with that.
Yeah. So. Anyway, what's the release date for the album? When does it come out? And it comes out on Metal Blade, but is it the same release date worldwide, or is it different in different countries?
No. It's worldwide with all the products. June 6th, June 9th. June 9th is Nick's The Remedy video, which is an awesome video. If you like the first one, you're going to love this one. It comes out. They don't do the staggered kind of thing at all. It's coming out everywhere. They told me that they've had twice as many pre-orders on this album than they did on the first one, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
The first video kind of peaked at 193,000. Now, no, it's not Metallica numbers, but considering, and that's after a month, considering the first album, the highest one after like 4 years is 88,000.
Sure.
We're heading in the right direction. Again, does that translate to, a world tour opening up for Iron Maiden? I don't know, but it's heading in the right direction as compared to either just
Right.
kind of hang out and being the same or whatever. So I really think that the album is the strength. This band's single is not the strength. It's the album that will people be going, damn.
For people like myself that have heard it, has their response been mostly like mine, where they like this one better than the first one?
From my end, yes, that's what I've heard.
Okay.
That's what I've heard. Again, kind of like you, they say there's nothing wrong with the first one, and it's this, that, and the other, and all this kind of stuff. But it's really taken to another level. It's a great evolution. It's a great progression.
Yeah, when you guys bring up the fact that, and you brought up a very good point, where it sounds like you guys have been playing together for 10 years. That is probably, I was trying to pinpoint, like, what is different about this record? Something about this album just gels so much better. And I think you're right. I think it is the personnel. I think it is the fact that you have this musical chemistry with these people that I just think everything about the record, I think that's a big reason why this record sounds a lot stronger as well. Because I think you have the right pieces in place, you have the right group of people participating in the songwriting. And, you have some different people, different types of people writing these songs. So I think for me, when I was trying to pick up the vibe of this record, you could just kind of feel what you're saying. And I think with me, my first impression of it, the first time I listened to it all the way through, I immediately liked it better. I mean, it really was that quick for me. And I remember listening to the first song, and I'm like, man, this record, from the first song, I thought it was going to be better. I mean, that was the whole vibe that I ended up getting. And, what I do, and this is what I've always done when I review records, or, I review a band's album. If I have anything from the back catalog, I typically go back and I listen to a lot of that again to kind of compare it to like what they've done before. So I went back, listened to the first album again, because sometimes, you might like something better or worse or whatever. And I'm like, it just, this new one, it's, to me, the impression it made on me was that the whole vibe was better. And just the songwriting just ended up getting better. I mean, that's really what it came down to for me.
Would you like to comment, Nick?
I mean, honestly, I probably shouldn't, since I wasn't around for the first one, other than to say thank you. And I do think, obviously Mark's done a lot of work by now with Philip, and it's important to have a rhythm section that gels. And I've done 6 albums with Ray, or 5 albums with Ray, and a couple of live albums. And I wanted to play with Mark for 20 years, so that counts for something. And then I've worked with Simone. So there is that connectivity there that I think matters.
Yeah.
And everybody's vision was sort of aligned on what we wanted it to be, and everybody sort of elevated everybody else's playing. So when that happens, you can sometimes get some pretty neat stuff.
I think actually the word that you could be looking for was love, because if you watch that video, that first video, I mean, we figured out that there was a guy walking around filming backstage stuff, but the truth of the matter is that none of it was staged. That was actually everybody enjoying everybody. And like, there's a certain thing. And if you can take that from hanging out to the stage, that, or to the recording, that's part of it too. I think there's a certain, I don't know if it's respect or, there's an enjoyment about being in a group. There's an enjoyment about being in a band. Everybody, the respect, the professionalism, the communication, hey, I don't like this. I think this is on too long, whatever. And I think it shows in records. I mean, you could stick 4 of the greatest people in the world, and it could be a very clinical record. No one knows, and God knows I've played on a million of those. I played on a million things where I never meet anybody. And I just play on them and I do my thing. But there's a certain thing going on here, and I really think that shows in the final product.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I said, it's one of those things where you talked about the love of the album and really liking the music and being there. And, not to disrespect the first record, but it did sound more of like the clinical record that you're kind of describing, whereas this one, there's more cohesiveness to it. It's probably the best way to put it. There's more, I've listened to albums with bands that you listen to it, and some of them are bands that I know, and you're like, something's off with that band, and then you find out, not all the time, but sometimes you find out that there is something off. And I'm not saying there was anything off in the first album, but I think that the member changes needed to happen for the album to grow. Nothing personal against anybody playing on the last album, but in order to grow this thing, and in order for the band to evolve, I think the personnel changes were necessary. And from the creative aspect, sometimes you need that. And so when I listen to this, again, I have not gotten sick of listening to this album. I don't remember when you sent it to me, but it was quite a while ago. I've listened to it probably 50 or 60 times. And the first impression I had was that the vibe was completely different after the first song.
Yeah. It's interesting because without getting into too much detail, it's one thing to be working in a band situation where you're kind of in the creative part of it. You're kind of pulling teeth. And then settling for the 60% because you'll never get it to the 100. And you're kind of like, okay, I've tried to explain this 12 times. It's not going anywhere. I'll take it. It's another thing to be in a situation where you come up with an idea and the person takes it and it times is by 15 and makes your idea look kind of weak because they just took it so far out and made it so much better because that's what they do. Yeah. And I love that experience. I just loved having that experience. It's just like, it's wonderful, as a musician and just as a guy who listens to music, to hear someone come back and you go, oh my God, I never imagined that, but that's fantastic.
Yeah. And there was nothing forced on it. That's the thing, there's nothing forced. Everything sounds like it just naturally came together without having to like push a lot of buttons to do that.
No, it was. I
mean, the bones came together really, really quickly, and that to the extent that it wasn't recorded in 10 days is just a function of people wanting to just continue to improve it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, in my episode, I said the songs are more refined. It sounds like a more refined record than the first one, and that's kind of, when you're going through and improving it. Okay. I could do this better. I could do that better. Going and re-recording stuff. I think that's what you guys did. I mean, I think you refined it, and it's interesting. The reason I said it comes naturally is because Nick, you brought up that look. I re-recorded parts. Normally, I don't like to do that, but when you heard other people playing these songs, you're like, I got to change this. This part sounds better, and then you get excited about it because then you go and listen to it, and you're like, man, I'm glad I changed this.
Yeah, Chris Chiarte, please don't listen to this podcast. That's my redemption drummer, and I'm going to wind up, I'm afraid this is now going to be the new way of working because it does make a difference. When I told him I did it, he's like, oh really? What an interesting way to record a record.
I don't know. It's kind of, and everybody comes from different spots and they have different experience and they learn different ways and they're different bands. Yeah. But I always loved the process of demoing stuff. I wasn't so overly concerned of the perfect takes and stuff. Like, okay, let's just get the basics. And then you go refine it. And then you get to that day where it's like, okay, this is for real. And the red light's on and this is, okay, here we go. I myself love that process of being able to really take it step at a time, because I'm not worrying about creating the part and recording the track at the same time. And I know people do it and that's cool. It's different for everybody.
My problem is I'm such a perfectionist that when I track something, I'll track it perfect, which doesn't happen in one take, and then I'll do it 3 other times. So it's 4 tracks of stuff that has to be played perfectly. Yeah. So when I was ready to be like, all right, that's my part. So maybe next time I'll do 1 stereo track and leave some mistakes in there and not worry about it too much.
Absolutely. Trust me. I had that all over the place because I wasn't concerned about that. Oh, that snare hit sounds a little funkier. You pushed the beat, whatever. It's more about getting the song together and then going. Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get towards the end of this here, but since, we're getting towards the end of this, obviously you guys are in other bands and, let's get some updates on what's going on. So Mark, obviously Warlord has some shows and, you put that album out quite a while ago, and talk about some of the upcoming shows that you have, and that reception to the new Warlord album, I think has been excellent, to be honest, and maybe talk a little bit about what's going on with that band.
Well, that was just basically trying to wrap up Bill's legacy and have the one last kind of hurrah, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that he and I worked on that just kind of sat there because he was very ill and he wasn't in a position to take it to the final finish kind of thing. So we just kind of wrap it up. And, he had told me via email and text and phone calls and stuff that I should carry on with it and push on with it. The same with the live playing. He said, hey, man, just go get a guitar player and just go play. It's not that difficult. We have some shows. I guess it's the end of June into the beginning of July. It all centers basically around getting the offer to open up for Priest on July 2nd. And the only way that really came about is we played this last Italian festival on this last run a couple months ago, and the promoter really liked us, and he recommended us for that gig in Italy. So it's like, okay, now we got a one-off. We get to bang out 8 songs opening up for Judas Priest. That's great, but got to put some dates around it. It's kind of tough to do a one-off when you got 3 guys coming from the United States.
Yeah.
So there's just some dates around that. I think they start rehearsals like a 26 or something, and then like 28th through the 6th or something like that, with traveling around kind of thing. Italy, Belgium, Germany, and Holland kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's it. Go out and play 17 of the classics. It's fun. I like it. I got the highlight. I don't want to say the highlight of my Warlord career, but the highlight was taking my daughter to Japan a few months ago.
That's cool.
It was the gigs. The gigs were gigs. I played better, but to take her, the combination that she loves Japan and she's never really seen me play. Even though I'm not sure if those gigs, put it this way, I'm dying to drag her to the Priest gig to show her, like, yeah, I do this all the time. It's no big deal. But no, she.
Where is that gig, the July 2nd gig, Mark?
It's in Milan somewhere, some open air. It's not a festival. It's them and I think it's Filthy Animal Taylor or Phil Campbell, one of those Motorhead.
The one that's not dead. I think that's Phil Campbell is still around.
Okay. I don't really keep up on the death rate. I know Lemmy's not going to be there. I know that.
No.
But it's just, a quick bang out 8 songs, play the Deliver Us album and one other song. And you know how those gigs are, man. It's like you're off before you even knew you went on.
Yep.
That's, lucky if I break a sweat. But and then we're talking about possibly writing another record. But I just think it's important if Warlord's going to move on, it needs to move on kind of like Riot. You can't, and I know it's a bad saying, but you really can't have that one foot in the grave and trying to, maneuver. If you're going to make a move, you make a move. This is the band. This is what we're writing. It'd be in the style of Warlord. And, if there's someone wants to, we've had different offers or whatever, and, maybe we'll go through with that, and people want to buy it, great. If not, then they won't buy it, and that'll be that. But, at this point in the game, there's no reason to give it a shot,
Yeah. Nick, I Am the Storm by Redemption, probably, in my opinion, your best album. What are you guys up to? You guys recording anything, writing any songs, or what's going on with the band?
Well, writing has begun. One song's basically written other than vocals, and I've got the start of a bunch of other stuff. We've been very busy. Evergray's been very busy. Vikram is in multiple bands now. He was in Pain of Salvation for a long time, and he just joined, I want to say, Within Temptation, although that could be wrong, but, a big band that's going to be touring a lot. And he and Tom together write, scores for video games, which is a huge creative undertaking. So they're busy. Chris has got another band. Sean's busy with his stuff, and we also don't live around the corner from each other, so it's not like we get together and jam it out on a Saturday. But
right.
And we need a new record deal. So other than that, we're ready to go. But and you don't want to rush this stuff. But I'm sort of getting an itch, and I know sooner or later we'll pick things back up.
Yeah, I forgot AFM got bought out. I forgot about that. Yeah, they pretty much dropped everybody.
Yep.
It's like a legacy artist type thing now. Back catalog. I forgot about that because I know a few bands on that label were like, I was like, when's your album coming out? And then all of a sudden, I don't know what it was, I found out they ended up getting bought out, and A lot of them told me the whole detail what happened. So, but I think
I worry that that AI music is going to really kind of take over. If you're a record label and you can take an existing artist and press a button and create a new record in 8 minutes and at no cost,
yeah,
audiences don't know the difference. I mean, I think there's a little bit of human creativity that still goes into the style of music we play, but not to take anything away from them because they're obviously hugely successful. If you're Taylor Swift or you're Drake, you can literally have an AI agent create a new record for you that sounds just like you in a minute. And
I had an entire podcast discussion about this.
Am I crazy, or are other people worried about the same thing?
So yeah, I mean, I'll put a link in the show notes to it. So I had a big discussion. I like to, on occasion, have discussions about it, and I've actually had one about AI in music and just creative stuff in general. I had a friend of mine named Justin, who he's a graphic designer, guitar player, plays in a band. Christian Wentz, I'm sure you know him.
Christian's a buddy.
So he actually, he talked about how the whole AI process works, and we had a huge discussion about it, about how the things. Now, me personally, with how AI works, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, Justin and I are basically learning from Christian how it works and just asking questions. It's kind of how the whole discussion went, but it's an interesting discussion. There were a lot of different points of view presented in it, and I can definitely send you guys the link to it. But, we talked about, how we use it in real life, like right now. We talk about it. We talk about how it'll, affect the music industry or entertainment. We talk about the dangers of it. I mean, we touched on a pretty good sizable amount of stuff. I'll have to send you guys the link to it. But it was definitely a fun discussion. We discussed exactly what you were talking about. Like, let's say, for example, a label wants to say, hey, let's make a new Queen record, even though Freddie Mercury's dead. I mean, boom, you can probably train it to do that. And I was talking to Christian the other day, and we were talking about how it was an interesting philosophy. He was talking about how because he works in like cybersecurity and he deals with this, that AI within probably a year will have pretty much have all the knowledge human beings have acquired since our existence, like within that year period. And it was a pretty crazy thing. We were talking on the phone about it actually, and we revisit it every year. And I'll invite you too if you want to come on for that discussion whenever we have another one.
That'd be great.
You're welcome to do so because it's cool. I mean, I did an AI action figure of Zonder. Actually, I know.
Very cute, very funny.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I chat GPT. I just gave a description, put a photo of him in there with his drum kit, and it made this realistic action figure of Zonder in an action figure box.
Let me ask you a quick question though, and I'm not overly dialed into the whole, AI when it comes to that. But when you talk about the Queen record, but they can't call it Queen, can they?
If you do it with the permission of the people that own the trademark.
Yeah.
But there's the line though, But then again, X amount of dollars, have at it, that kind of thing. But
all the stuff. It's a good tool, and it's a terrible master. And I don't want to be overly alarmist because, frankly, anytime there's a technological breakthrough, whether it's MIDI or digital recording or drum machines or synthesizers, if you let it get in the way of writing a great song, it's going to end up poorly. But if you harness it, you can do a lot of great things that advance songwriting craft and make recording simpler and get you through the bumpy parts so that you can focus on crafting the best music.
Yeah.
So.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And Nick, you brought up in the last discussion that we had, we were talking about the Olympics, and you brought up how they were going to use the Al Michaels voice.
Yep.
You couldn't do the spur of the moment thing. Like you brought up the
you're not going to get, you do believe in miracles. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you brought up a very good point, but I'll send you that discussion. And the thing is, if you ever want to participate in that discussion with us, that would be great.
That'd be great. It'd be fun.
I know you work with the movie industry. That would be interesting how it affects that.
Yep.
And Christian, I mean, he works with it. He's a cybersecurity dude. He's working with this stuff like nonstop. And every once in a while, I get this message, man, we got to have this discussion again, So But you're definitely invited for it if you want to be part of it.
Great. Awesome. Love to.
So, gentlemen, it was great to have you on. I am really excited for this album to come out, actually, to get a physical copy and play it on my sound system. So, but again, it was really fun to have you guys on. I think this album is incredible. I think that if people liked the first one, which it looked like it was well received, I think that they're going to like this one a lot better. And, you know, maybe some final thoughts from you guys when it comes to this album coming out in June.
Nick?
I mean, I just think, thank you for having us. It's always great to talk with you. I'm really proud of this. And as I said, I've been waiting for 20 years to work on something with Mark. And hopefully this won't be the last thing we do, because I think we've got something pretty special here and we all had such a great time. And it was so easy. So I hope people dig it as much as you do and as much as we do, and hope we have an opportunity to keep building on it.
Yeah.
No, I just obviously wanted to thank you, Tony, but I also wanted to thank Nick for giving, A through Z 2 life, because it was Nick who gave it life. Without Nick, I'd still be running around playing with 19 other people trying to figure out how to write songs. But no, also too, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but we're definitely working on it. I think the guys in this band, playing live, will just be, 75% of the success of this band, in respect of it'll just take it to the next level. It's not easy to do between the guys' schedules and the actual, availability of stuff. But, if you give it 110% and you do the best you can, we'll see what comes out of it. And, I'm sure everybody here is dying to go out and play these songs,
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, again, I think that this record is very good. I got to ask you, though, to end it off, is there a third one planned?
I've got some ideas.
I got an album cover or two floating around in my head. And no, it has nothing to do with teeth.
Gotcha.
No, again, unfortunately, this isn't the 80s where we all live in the same house kind of thing. And
Right.
we're getting money from the label and surviving. So everybody has lives and different commitments and so on and so forth. But no, Nick and I have talked about it, there's no reason not to. Let's just put it that way. But no, like he said, he has the ideas, and I know everybody is game for it. I think what's going to really, there's something that we haven't really talked. We'll wrap this up real quick. The record's not even out. I think when the record comes out, and the theory, kind of winning solves all problems.
Yeah.
It's like when that thing hits and it makes its mark, I think there's going to be other opportunities for us.
Yeah.
I think we just won't be this band with a single, and a cute album cover. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think we haven't even put the product out to be able to field offers and deal with things. So I think that's something, not that we're overlooking, but that's going to really make a big difference.
Well, I think things are going to look up for you, probably more than you think. That's just my guess.
From your lips to God's ears.
All right. Well, gentlemen, it was great having you on the show.
Always awesome, Tony.
Much appreciated yet again.
Our pleasure, man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much. Be well.
Hey, everybody. Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.